Can you go through who's really running things? I mean, how does politics really work?
I've said so much over the last year that has gotten me in trouble, but at this point, I don't really, I'm not on anyone's payroll, so what the fuck, I don't care. It's the money, and it's very pivotal. That's where the power is. That's why being a fundraiser is so impactful, and a donor. These people don't need to get paid. They have their own independent wealth. They run the world. This is the first time I'm saying this, actually.
This episode is sponsored by Aura. Guys, you ever wonder how scammers get your phone number or why your inbox is flooded with all kinds of spam? Well, there are companies out there called data brokers, and they sell your data against without your consent. You don't know it. They sell it to the highest bidder. They sell it to marketers. They sell it even to stalkers. And while they're legally required to remove your info if you ask, they make the process very confusing, very convoluted. All right. But guess what? Aura is a company that takes care of all the hard part by automatically removing your info from all of these sites, and they keep it off. All right. So it is, and I have a number of friends that have used this stuff. It is an excellent company. If you look at their reviews, they are crushing it. It's an all-in-one digital security company. You may already have a digital security tool, but not having Aura is like locking the front door but leaving the back door open, okay? You get alerts if your personal info is found on the dark web. You get real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking, 24/7 monitoring to help keep your identity secure, a secure VPN, antivirus, password manager, and more. US-based support available around the clock if something goes wrong. My whole family, I'm getting my whole family on this, okay? Because if anything does happen, Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection. How about that? One app, every layer of protection. That's why this podcast chooses Aura. Try Aura free 14 days at aura.com/Bryan Callen. Aura.com/Bryan Callen. In those 2 weeks, you'll discover where your data is being exposed and sold. All right. So I'm getting everybody I know on Aura in my immediate circle because it's just too important not to do. Thank you. Aura.com/Bryan Callen. Okay, let's just start with this because I'm excited because you're rather accomplished. It's like Lindy Li, Princeton graduate, Democratic fundraiser, fluent in the piano. Like you were talking
Oh,
about
that's online. I
Chopin.
had no idea.
What's that?
I had no idea that was online. I thought I
Well,
kept
I
a
know.
classical
Listen, you
pianist.
play when you talk about Chopin and Liszt and all these like really difficult people to play. It's like what those are finger twisting nightmares. Like the fact that you can play
Oh,
those etudes is insane.
those are still rejuvenating melodies. I had a very, very difficult childhood, and they were my best friends. It wasn't
Right.
just Chopin, though. It was Schubert, it was Mozart, it was Tchaikovsky's. Um, I mean, it's just everything.
Yeah. I do a whole
1812
joke about
Overture.
I have a joke about how I have a Chinese friend and how much I admire Chinese culture. And I don't even know if that's the right word for it, but your parents were immigrants. They came from mainland China, I believe, right?
We actually came from England, but over the last couple months, somebody hijacked my Wikipedia page and took out anything good.
Yeah.
They just wiped it out. So you don't know that I spent 4 years in England. You don't know that I spent my most formative years in Sheffield, the United Kingdom. They just decided to delete vast portions of my bio. It's gone. And so nobody knows. It's actually terrible how much control the left just on Wikipedia have over people's lives. It's
I know.
terrifying.
I know it is. I know it is. It's a disaster.
It's
But
just
regardless of where you grew up, their cultures are rather resilient, and how you do things, the value system, the standards, the importance in attendance, daily attendance, practice, perfect practice, family, frugality, putting education at the forefront, practicing the difference between practicing 1 hour and 4 hours is how you learn about everything in life. Mastering one thing very well then allows you to be good at, you learn how to learn, and you can apply that to everything. The concept of Wu Wei, getting to that point. I love all of that. That doesn't go away just because you grew up in Sheffield, right? So it was very interesting to kind of like, hear how you kind of came up dealing with your terrible childhood, you know, uh, with music and just sitting at the piano and playing.
Oh
My
my
God,
gosh.
it's so romantic. It's a beautiful story. But
Well, let me add a little bit of hilarity into it. I used to practice piano so much that I would just have a box of Airheads underneath my bench because a bench opens up. And we used to go to Costco and buy 76 Airheads at the same time. And there's, I don't know if you're familiar, but there was a box of just 76 Airheads. And I would just, as I was playing, just eat the Airheads. That was back in the day when my metabolism was like on fire. But I started piano at 4 years old, so I just ate Airheads and played all the way
do
through.
you still play?
I don't have a piano in my apartment right now, but I wish there's just something about piano that just touches my soul.
Do you think
It's
you're
so
different because you play the piano? So I mean,
yes, because I view the world through a mathematical, structured way, and every time I hear music, it almost makes me good music. I'm not talking about like I don't know. I don't want to offend anyone who of a particular genre of music, but like great music moves me to tears. It's just so exhilarating and so incredibly healing. Um, it's everything. I really think that Beethoven is the epitome, the pinnacle of Western civilization.
mhm.
Tchaikovsky, too, for instance, and Swan Lake and all of that. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
I believe in God when it's hard not to believe in God when you
that's
see a
so
great
true.
pianist play something, whether it's the Moonlight Sonata. I don't know. I'm not up, but just anything that's great on the piano, like Chopin.
Oh, that's so right. And you can sense their pain. As someone who's been through a lot of angst, it's like you're suffering alongside these greats. It's going to be okay. It's like they're telling us we've been there too. Some of them didn't actually make it through, but I mean, they were there with you as well. For
It's
example,
also
in
it's also it's also that thing that Nietzsche talked about. I think Schopenhauer talked about too. It's sort of it's the suspension of the will. It's this idea that it is in those moments when you're creating art or even being moved by art that we forget that we're human in many ways. And what I mean by that is we forget we're biological creatures. You forget you have to go to the bathroom. You want sex, or you're tired, or any of those things that kind of nag at the biological machine. That those moments of inspiration when you hear something beautiful. I think beauty and truth, and it's one of the great ideas of philosophy. But beauty and truth are very close cousins. They're almost attached to the hip. There is something about beauty that when you hear a beautiful somebody play something beautifully on the piano, there is something, I guess, the Greeks defined beauty as harmony, and everything has to be in harmony. And it resonates with your entire, this avatar. You just feel it in every, if you're open to it, you feel it everywhere. A fool can appreciate the Moonlight Sonata. You don't have to be sophisticated. You can start crying and you don't even know why you're crying. And those are the kinds of things where I find it impossible not to believe in something bigger than us and ultimately something benevolent. I
You're
can't
gonna make me
measure it.
cry, Brian.
Yeah.
You are a man after my own heart, and it's um. I've said this before. Nietzsche. You mentioned Nietzsche. He said, "Without music, life would be a mistake."
Oh, it's a great quote. Yeah.
And I just believe that so much. And I really, you know, I think genius comes at the cost of pain and heartbreak. And you can, for example, like C sharp minor nocturne by Chopin, it's a hauntingly beautiful piece. And you can tell that he's really going through it.
He's really going through it, right?
He
I think
really
he had
is.
tuberculosis.
He had all sorts, he had love issues. I
Yeah.
mean, he had
Well, I think he
everything.
dated. Didn't he date George Sand? I think the
Yeah, he
the
dated a
great
lot of
feminist
interesting
writer. And
characters. Exactly. But I'm just saying it's just so incredible. And I also listen to Christian music, by the way.
do you really?
I do actually every night.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't go to church, but I also want to still have that spiritual communion.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of, oh my God, I'm going to get myself in so much trouble, but I'm just not a huge fan of man-made institutions when it comes to faith. In fact, I don't even think I have a religion. I think I have a faith.
Mm.
I wear this everywhere I go. It's a cross, but I don't go to church. That's funny. I like to have two Bibles in front of me, but I feel like faith is an intrinsically personal thing that should not be commercialized or,
Well,
you
think
know,
about what you're doing, Lindy. I mean, what I really love about you is that you have never your outrage at the world and your outrage at people who embrace the lie never seems to wane. And what drives you, you might lose all your friends and everything else, but what drives you is this idea that if I stay close to the truth, maybe I'll have an impact in the world. That is a very that requires faith. And frankly, it's naive. Frankly, it's just like it's an outrage that you even behave this way. If I was your dad or something, I'd be like, you got to stop doing this right now and start come to your senses and play ball. But you don't play ball because you can't play ball. You just have to speak it the way it is. That is an act of faith.
oh my gosh, I love you. I think I need to talk to you. You heal my soul. In fact, it's actually, you hit on something inadvertently. I've become such a rebel in life that I no longer even tell my parents what's going on. And hopefully they don't have Google alerts on my name. I just like, what's the point of telling them? They're going to tell me not to do it. They're going to say you're going to get killed. I mean, there's all valid concern in light of what's happened recently, but I'm also just not going to live my life in fear. I was born to do this, and I know. I mean, you are an icon. You're an American icon. People
I'm
love
not, but I
you. You
appreciate
know
it.
that you were born to do this, right? I know that you feel that too.
Yeah. Well, I never, I feel great when I'm making people laugh, but I also love the big ideas. And I also love the idea of what you're talking about. Have you ever read anything by Flannery O'Connor?
Oh my gosh! We're gonna take a little field trip right now.
Oh, really?
I'm a bibliophile. I lived through music and literature.
Thank
I
you.
love books so much. I mean, it's just
So I'm going to quote her. I'm
amazing.
going to quote her for a second. I'll give you a quote from her. She said, "I sit at my typewriter at 5:30 every morning, not to write, but in case something happens."
I love
Now,
that so much.
right? It's like it's an act of faith. I'm gonna keep showing up until the story reveals itself to me. She's just a midwife to the story.
That's totally right. It's
Yeah.
totally right. It doesn't come out in a chunky manner. It's like God speaking through you.
Yes.
Like I've
Yes.
written stuff. I'm writing a book. This is the first time I'm saying it publicly, but anyway, and I'm writing at like 3 a.m. or when I'm feeling so much love it borders on pain.
Damn.
And it's like God's. Oh, I'm not Moses, but when like it's just like being touched by the hand of God. It truly is.
Yeah.
That is the height of art.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I think the agony and the ecstasy. There's a book by Irving Stone about Michelangelo and how he went blind, whether it's true or not, but I love the story. I love the mythology. He went blind painting the Sistine Chapel.
Oh yes, that is true. He suffered a lot of physical ailments too,
Yeah.
because lying on his back
Yeah,
is just
and
very
forget
bad
to
for you.
eat, and it ruined me because I was like, well, now I'm a lazy bastard for the rest of my life. But the standard and the bar is so high. But there is something to whatever you suffer. I think it's you say to anybody, be careful. You say no because it's worth it. It's worth it. I want to live dangerously and I want to live close to the truth. And this brings me to I want to touch on. I want you to kind of give me an understanding of how politics really works, meaning I want to know who's really running things. And my guess is it might be our fundraisers. It might be the people that actually give to the candidates because they have a list of things they want. And all the other stuff is noise. But I want to get your take on how politics work. And then I want you to kind of go into how you think the Charlie Kirk assassination is going to affect the next year, 3 years, 5 years, because it is going to have a ripple effect. I hope it's a positive one. I found it heartbreaking, unacceptable, terrible, and all the rest. And I know that TikTok highlights all the worst cases of people celebrating. But that's kind of what hits us in our emotional place. But I'd love to get a sense first of who's really in control. You are a Democratic fundraiser. You became
Were,
disillusioned with the
were
way
we
the
got to
Democrats
emphasize that.
handled themselves. You went over sort of the Republican Party because you had no choice. But you've always kind of like you're progressive in certain instances, but mostly probably somewhat, I would say, traditional. I don't think anybody who
I'm
comes to
Asian, come on. So
what's that? You're what?
I'm East Asian, we're traditional.
Yeah, and eminently reasonable, but accomplished as hell, and also outrageous. Also, I mean, you are somebody who's just unwilling to compromise, and I just love it. Your skin is raw. You're like one of those people that I love people like you because you're everything matters. You feel so deeply, and you act on it with great courage and abandon. And I don't know how to tell you. The only word I can use is maybe it's just so romantic to me. It's you're it, it's a form of it's like being a warrior. It's like being a warrior poet or something. I
Oh
don't
my
know. I
gosh,
just
Brian, I love you so much. I just like you get me so much. I don't know what you did or how you did it, but you understand me more than people that I've known for a decade.
well, I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah, it's just astounding to me. And I will answer your question, but you're totally right that everything I do is actually an act of love, and no one realizes it. Well, I keep to myself most of all. As you mentioned, I have no friends. I have one person in my life. It's not even a joke, by the way. It's to keep me safe because I've been betrayed so much. So if nobody knows anything about me, they can't hurt me with it. People don't know anything about me. They just don't. I don't put anything about my personal life. I don't know if you realize, but on social media, there's not a single thing about my personal life. According to the world, I'm a spinster, and yeah. And sure, I mean, if that's the conception you want of me, then fine. I don't really care. I'm not living for them. But
If I were your therapist, you know what I would do to you? I would say, Lindy, this is the last time we're going to speak. Here's my prescription for you. I want you to go out there and keep having your heart broken. Keep breaking your heart. Get into the mix. Keep loving. Keep expecting,
but the thing
and
is,
then die.
in which case I would make great art.
Yes,
But the thing is, at the core, in my private life, I'm actually filled with love. Like, I'm good. I
good.
don't need anything, and nobody knows. It's sacred to me. It's holy. Why share it and dilute it? They obviously don't deserve it, given everything they've done to me. But yeah, I'm just blown away by how deeply you understand that I really have an audience of one, and if people want to listen, other people want to listen, great. But I'm just here to tell the truth. I never got paid as a fundraiser. I'm independently, I'm financially well off. I didn't need a salary. Nobody paid me to do anything I did.
Wow.
Nobody paid me to tell the truth. People are like, oh, she got paid to expose the corruption. No, actually,
Wow.
nobody
Wow.
paid me. I didn't
Wow.
make a single cent off the fundraiser. So I was part of the National Finance Committee, and it's a group of people who raised more than $1 million for the campaign, given or raised. And I didn't take a single dime. And people call me a consultant. I've never worked as a consultant. No
Damn.
way. I did it because I wanted to. I do everything because I want to, not because I'm paid for it or whatever.
That's amazing. I did not know that. And so can you go through who's really running things? I mean, how does politics really work?
Well, Brian, it's interesting that you ask because you were kind enough to come on our show, Her Take, and I thought you were brilliant, and I studied your facial expressions. Um, and we talked about Israel. And the reason I want to bring up now is I realized that you winced when I said something about Israel.
I don't. I'm not Jewish. I don't defend. It's not that I blindly defend. Remember, I lived in the Middle East 8 years of my life around
Yeah.
Palestinians, Lebanese, Muslims. I know a lot about what it was like to be an Arab of the Levant from their side because I grew up around it. So my thing was I worry when people get, and I'm not saying you were, but I worry when people get conspiratorial and reductive about the conflict. That's the only thing. So when Anna Kasparian was talking about how
Well,
the
that's her issue. She talks about it a lot. So.
dancing Israelis and the fact that
Oh yeah,
Netanyahu
yeah. I
knew,
don't subscribe to that. That's
that's
not
the kind
my.
of stuff I go, oh no,
So
yeah.
what I think what might have happened is that they spliced your facial expression to something anodyne that I said because I actually didn't say anything remotely even controversial.
Yeah.
Like my views are very standard. But I think to make it more captivating, they probably spliced your reaction to something what I said to make the trailer more appealing.
Oh, that's what they did. Okay. I don't know.
It
I don't
didn't make
remember what
sense
you
to me
said.
because what I said was actually pretty
Yeah, I don't remember
lame.
you saying anything that my main thing about that whole that conversation is I have this joke about the fact that I'm not going to say anything that's going to make a dent into that conflict that's been going on since Moses had a parting of the ways with the Pharaoh. Like that is that Palestinian Israeli thing is something that we could talk to death about and nothing is going to change. And there are two different perspectives. If I was Israeli, I'd probably feel the way an Israeli does. If I was Palestinian, I'd feel the way a Palestinian does. And I just a lot of times feel like I'm kind of just the noise over here. So it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I actually align with you on this issue. The reason why I bring it up, though, it's the money, and it's very pivotal. And it's also, I'm probably going to, I've said so much over the last year that has gotten me in trouble, but at this point, I don't really, I'm not on anyone's payroll, so what the fuck, I don't care. So, I mean, I can give you a specific instance of something that happened. We had an event with Biden, Obama, and Clinton on March 28th or April 28th, 2024 at the Radio City Music Hall. We raised $28 million and I helped to do that. I was seated right behind Hunter Biden, who was parading around like he owned the place. And Jeff Katzenberg, who founded DreamWorks Entertainment, was right behind me. And Harry Sisson, the internet influencer, I don't know if you know him, he was in the nosebleeds and I felt bad for him. So I gave him my VIP seats. I got him and his manager to come sit with me because the person I was supposed to bring wasn't able to come. So that was the event. And the day after, Biden had lunch with a group of us. It was at a very fancy hotel. And there was a woman, she stood up and she started crying. And she said, Biden, we're so thankful that thank you for your allegiance to Israel. And by the way, this was a lunch. The event that I was just referring to was constantly interrupted by protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters. That was the night before. And the next day there was that lunch with that woman. She was in tears. She was sobbing and just weeping out of gratitude. She's like, thank you so much for standing tall for Israel. Thank you for staying with us. And at this time, it had already become controversial. But the entire room erupted in applause except me and the person I was sitting next to. Actually, we both, we were just looking at each other. I don't want to disclose it as his identity. And it's very easy to because there weren't that many people. But the two of us were just looking at each other like, oh, okay, this is not great. I mean, first of all, it should be the allegiance to the United States, number one.
Right.
And number two, the way that things were going down in the Middle East wasn't good at that point. But it just shows that, as Politico said the day after Biden's debate, the only people in the world who had the power to pull the plug on his campaign, other than Jill, were the people in that room.
Wow.
That's his money. That's the power behind his campaign. And so much, I've never seen, by the way, as soon as Biden walked into that room that day, he paused the proceedings and said, let's sing happy birthday to the chair of the committee, a guy named Chris Corgi. He had his birthday was that day. And he stopped the entire room. It was a ballroom, top donors, and we just sang happy birthday, led by the president
he was
of the
a
United
top
States.
donor. Because he was such a top donor.
Chris Corgi, he was reelected as finance chair of the DNC. He's still there. But this guy enjoyed the privilege of being serenaded by the president of the United States, along with a room of millionaires and billionaires,
Yeah.
because he had so much power. This is a guy wwho can call up the White House and make personnel decisions.
Wow. Wow. So
That's
these
where
are
the
the people,
power
people
is.
talk about the deep state. I'm always talking about,
This
you
is
know,
them. And you never, and that's why being a fundraiser is so impactful and a donor. These people don't need to get paid. They have their own independent wealth. Um, they
yeah.
run the world, and their name is not slapped on buildings or articles. They just
And it's the same for the Republican Party too, right? You've got people like billionaires like Tim Dunn and other people who, are worth an astronomical amount of money, and they do it kind of quietly. And
and let me tell you, we collide. We collided. Jeff Yass is a billionaire. He's the wealthiest person in Pennsylvania. He lives down the street from my parents in Haverford. He was one of the earliest investors in TikTok.
wow,
And he got Trump to change his mind on TikTok, because I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, Trump was actually down and bearish on TikTok, saying, it's the Chinese. I'm actually very nervous about the CCP killed my family, so I'm nervous about anything that could be a Trojan horse from the communist regime. But Jeff got him to change his mind. And the reason why I'd say it's uniparty is sometimes their interests coincide. When I was part of the Democratic Party, I was like as conservative and as center as you could possibly get. So I viscerally opposed anyone on the far left who was supported by Sanders, who had socialist leanings. This is the first time I'm saying this, actually. I used to work with Jeff Yass and his crew to make sure that we defeated extremely leftist candidates in Philadelphia. We took down,
Jeff Gass is the billionaire.
yes. And so I would hide my own involvement, but now I don't care. I mean, whatever. But this has been going on for years. I would help them raise money, and we would release surgically targeted ads against people like Helen Gim, who was endorsed by Bernie Sanders and AOC. I come from a communist regime. I don't want a communist regime in Philadelphia. I know what it's like, and I know it's going to fail. We want private enterprise. We want free markets. We want all of
Well,
that.
you know what I think about Bernie Sanders and AOC, and it's not that they're evil at all. I think they're just not very smart. I don't think Bernie
Yes,
Sanders
actually, I
is.
don't think they're evil. I'm not here to
No, I
malign
think Bernie
anybody.
Sanders is of he is not a smart guy, and he's a loud guy and kind of gutsy, and believes what he believes. But I don't think he's intelligent. I think AOC is just the most. Maybe I'm just older and I listen to her talk, and I've really tried to give her a fair shake and hear how she speaks, and I just think she's woefully lacking in her understanding of history, political philosophy, what is good about conservative ideology. She would never even read it. She doesn't engage with conservatives really the way she should. So, that's my issue with her and her followers. But
Oh wow! I mean, the more you speak, the more that I adore you. And I mean, back in the day when I was like, I think I was like, I was just new to the political arena. I used to have a very naive understanding of politics, but now I realize it's just like, well, I've known for a while, but politics is absolutely, it's just the most hideous thing in the world, but also tantalizing for me. I can't stay away. It's like a train wreck that I have to be a part
oh
of.
yeah, oh yeah. But go back to this room of people that run the world, because these are
I can tell you who they are, by the way. I can tell some. I don't care anymore. I'm just
no,
going to tell
please,
you, like the
please.
Super Rangers. I'm sorry, not the Super Rangers, the Power Rangers guy, Haim Saban. Look him up. I highly encourage your listeners to look up this guy. He created Power Rangers, and he had so much power. He could just call Anita Dunn, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donilon. By the way, these are the senior advisors of the Biden regime. Just call them up and be like, change your policy on Israel right now. And that's actually one of his emails leaked.
Wow.
Because Biden decided to pause arms shipments for Israel for a few days, and he's like, "No, what the fuck? We need to don't do that." And they didn't do that. They changed their policy.
Well, there's a lot of talk about how powerful, and I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of talk about how powerful Jewish money is and how powerful Israel is and all that. And I always look at life as, the Jews, let's just take the Jews historically, realized that if they were going to survive these pogroms, so the Zionist movement was born in the Russian Pale, in the Russian ghetto. And pogrom is I think it's a Yiddish name for, essentially slaughter or something like. But they would always deal. The czar would be like, look, we got inflation, nobody has money. Let's blame the Jews. Let's blame the Jews. They Black Plague. They cover their wells. They must be involved. They're not dying the way we are. So the Jews have always had to be the most innovative people on the planet, right? The MRI machine, lasers, the pill, all invented. Even fake breasts that procedure was invented by a Jewish doctor.
Really?
Yes. It's crazy if you go to this tiny, tiny minority of people. And during the civil rights movement, half the white volunteers, half were Jewish. So they've always been at the forefront of social change. They've always been at the forefront of scientific and artistic. I mean, improv and even stand-up is essentially a Jewish invention. I have to tell you, if you look at it, I mean, if you look at Second City, they were all Jews. They were all, Hollywood was started by 4 Polish Jewish refugees. So, when you see, I mean, for that matter, advertising as we know it, the father of advertising might have been Freud's nephew, Bernays. So we can keep going with this stuff. And I think that what happened, what the Jews were very good at is they said, if we are going to survive, first of all, we need not a homeland, but a nation state. Because a nation state has borders that has to be recognized by other nation states. If you have a homeland, you're Chechnya, or you're one of those, or Tibet, and Chechnya for a lot of those examples are Kurdistan, and you're going to be a pawn, and you're not going to have a very good life. But also the idea was we better figure out a way to get into positions of power and influence, especially in controlling the narrative in the most powerful country in the world. And that's not just the United States, it's also Britain. So if you look at how strategic they've been, it's a zero-sum game. They just know that the world hates them, and they better do certain things if they're going to survive. Netanyahu is always talking about being strong because he lives in a world. People don't realize Netanyahu, Ehud Barak, they were part of a group called Tzeret Metkal. That's like the Delta Force. That's like SAS, badass guys. I mean, badass. Ehud Barak can pick any lock in the world. Those guys were up. They would dress up as women and come in, and yes, they would. Netanyahu was too big, but Ehud Barak dressed up as a woman. They came in. They were assassination teams. They were playing a zero-sum game. It was a crazy thing. So you've got people who if you were talking to Netanyahu, it's like, if I don't do this and I don't protect, what my area, I'm gonna die, and that's so deeply ingrained. It's so deeply ingrained. So yes, very influential, but they got themselves there. And they did it.
Absolutely.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing.
It's just incredible.
Yeah.
How deeply effective it is. It's just, and I don't want to. I have to be very careful with my adjectives, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just.
It's the first time though where a lot of the Jewish diaspora has been very much harmed by what has happened in Gaza. And Israel's reputation, in my opinion, or at least Israel's standing, even in this country, has now been put in great peril.
You want to hear something extremely interesting?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that I just mentioned 3 names, the 3 people running the country: Anita Dunn, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donnellan. Anita Dunn founded a firm called SKDK Knickerbocker. It's a very, it's one of the giants in the Democratic consulting world. Interestingly, it's the same firm that represented both the sexual predator in a case and the victim, and they got exposed for that. It was a huge Illinois scandal. It was double dealing, and they didn't tell the victim until NPR found out, or some news outlet. So Anita Dunn, is now representing the Israel Defense Ministry, and they have agreed to help swamp social media platforms with bots. This isn't me. If you don't believe me, look it up. Again, it's happening. This is Anita Dunn, arguably the president for the past 4 years.
When you say arguably the president, what do you mean?
Because Biden didn't have his wits about him. I campaigned. A lot of people say that he was senile all along. He wasn't senile all along. I wouldn't have campaigned for a vegetable in 2019. I just wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I campaigned for him because Bernie Sanders was such a threat, and I was moderate, and he was basically he and Amy Klobuchar were my only options for like moderation. So, and Amy wasn't going anywhere. I had to do it. It was like I had no choice. But something happened in 2022. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a mini stroke or something,
Yeah.
because my interactions with him prior to 2022 were a lot different from afterwards. It was
Mm.
just drastically different.
Wow.
Something I don't know. But I've had doctors, a lot of my donors are wealthy doctors. I would bring them to events and I wouldn't even prompt them. Like I wouldn't even ask them. My dad, by the way, worked at Brigham and Women's, which is a Harvard Medical School affiliated hospital. After my doctor friends would go to events, he'd be like, this guy has Alzheimer's or this guy has Parkinson's. Like they were diagnosing him without me even having
Wow.
to ask.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
it's just from inches away.
You know who else was doing that? The American public.
Would you say?
You know who else was doing that? The American public. And I've not had a day of medical school. All of us were like, the hell's going on here? You know?
Yeah, but I have to tell you, something happened in the middle of his term that accelerated his decline. Because I would not have, in good conscience, campaigned for the guy in 2022. It just something snapped, and they were not honest with us about what happened. Frankly, I don't even think they were honest with us about the cancer diagnosis. I think they knew beforehand,
Of
and
course
they
they did,
decided
because
to
he was
drop it.
so advanced at this point. You would know. It makes no sense that all of a sudden he's
Exactly,
acting. Yeah.
exactly, and I think they dropped it 2 days after Jake Tapper's book came out because the fallout was so bad.
Is that with is that stuff with the collusion of mainstream of legacy media?
Oh, absolutely, Brian. Absolutely. I had to tell you something else that happened. When I started being vocal about Biden's decline and his need to not, be in office anymore, this is last year in the middle of the campaign. I used to be on MSNBC and CNN several times a week, very frequently. You probably didn't watch and probably didn't notice, but yeah, I was on it a lot. And then I went on Fox News Sunday and I basically fired a SOS. I said Biden needed to step aside. And I said it unequivocally. And I said, this is I literally said, I said, this is a break glass in case of emergency moment. I told Shannon Bream that on Fox News Sunday. The night before, someone from the White House called me saying, it was the Sopranos moment. It was like, we know you're the president's most loyal supporter. We know that you're going to stay loyal. Fuck that, by the way. I'm loyal to one person, it's American people. I'm not loyal to some guy. Like he's a friend, I guess. But my allegiance is to the American people, to this country that's given me everything. I'm not going to allow a vegetable to win another 4 years. Everything was at stake. After I said that, I was yanked off of MSNBC. I appeared on MSNBC one more time, and that
Wow.
was it. And they kept booking me too. But I think what was happening was a producer would book me, and then someone higher up would say she's no longer welcome here, because it just kept on happening like 5 or 6 times. And the first 3 times I was like, okay, this is really bad luck. I'm not gonna cry. Like it's gonna be okay. But it kept happening, and it was always the same excuse. It's like we have White House spokesperson Ian Sams. We can't say no to him. We're gonna have to reschedule you. They never rescheduled me, by the way. But I used to be welcomed. I used to be treated so well. But the moment I started telling the truth about Biden, I was gone.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
haven't been on since.
Not surprising, even a little bit. Not even surprising.
It was really hard at the time, though,
Yeah.
because it was just really hard at the time.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. It's kind of like it's isolation, professional isolation, which is one of their main weapons.
And Brian, I had no intention of leaving. I thought I was going to firm up the conservative flank of the Democratic Party. I thought that was going to be it. So when they took that away from me, like the MSNBC and CNN, I thought I was done. Do you understand? Because
Yeah,
it's like taking my voice away.
I know. I know. But guess what? The internet lives on, and you found another way. Thank God.
I found people who actually care about,
Yeah.
my home. I don't have to pretend around them. I don't have to keep my mouth shut. Like with the Democrats, they had drag queens everywhere and, all sorts of weird stuff going on.
Well, it was an assault. Yeah.
Right, but I would go to the vice president's house, and by the way, she used to make this off-color joke, and it made me deeply uncomfortable, but I would just be like, ugh. She'd always say, I'm in federally supported housing, and then do that cackle of hers.
I know.
And I'm
Well,
like, I can't, what'd you say?
she was a disaster. She's another one I just don't think is very intelligent and certainly has no
She's not.
confidence.
She's of middling intelligence.
But there's something else going on as well, in my opinion, with someone like Kamala Harris. All I see is ambition. I don't see truth. I just see ambition. And so I think when your life is essentially a lie, when you're always trying to be political, when you're always trying to manipulate not only your image but sort of the message, uh, it's really hard. It's really hard to have the confidence to go on Joe Rogan for 3 hours.
You know the thing about that? By the way, you and Joe are the perfect pair. Every time you guys are together, it's like,
We have these arguments. You should see us off air. I've known him 30 years, so we're always fighting, but in a good way. We love each
but
other.
it's like the meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
You guys are just perfect together. But with that, like the idea of going on Joe and speaking for 3 hours, that sounds like heaven. It sounds like catharsis to me. Like it's basically therapy in the best way possible because it's Joe Rogan.
It's
For
true.
her though, and I know her staff, she needed talking points in front of her that she would memorize. And so she would just internalize that. And so
Oof.
she didn't have enough of 3 hours of material. Do you understand? Like there's
Yeah.
no runway for that.
She didn't know how to, she just didn't do her homework. Like she just didn't have any bedrock to anchor into. I mean,
She
she
would
just doesn't.
then castigate her team for her own lack of
Yeah.
preparation.
She's
Her
unprincipled.
team were people my age that I would talk with, and they would be like, oh my God, she created such a toxic work environment that about 96% of her team was new at the end of the term.
Wow.
That is an
That says
astounding
a
amount.
lot. That
That
says a
is,
lot.
she went through 3 chiefs of staff.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Biden already had a high turnover. Hers was even worse.
Let her run again. Let's see what happens. But wait, so I want to go back just a second. We have Anita Dunn. We have 2 more people that you mentioned.
Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donelon. Steve Ricchetti had a brother named Jeff Ricchetti. Jeff Ricchetti obviously did everything he could to make money off of his brother's high position. He started a consulting firm and they made tens of millions of dollars. Surprise, surprise. Hunter Biden is now fighting with Anita Dunn, and I think it's hilarious because both of them are grifters. Anita Dunn made tens of millions of dollars, and Hunter made, possibly even more simply by being the son of Joe Biden from Ukraine, I mean.
Wow.
I just went on Fox News. We did a documentary about Hunter Biden and the cocaine and everything. And then we just had to go through and scrub, line by line, validating everything I said because we heard from his team that he's extremely litigious and wants to sue, even though everything we're saying is true. So it's just like,
Yeah.
This guy, he had everything handed to him, but he just pissed it all away on cocaine and he blew his child's college tuition.
God, he's a bad addict.
This is someone.
Yeah, nothing good comes from cocaine. Nothing good comes from that much crack. It's nobody ever did a lot of crack and then woke up like a week later and went, I'm glad I did that. Or nobody had a problem, did a bunch of crack and then said, my problem's now solved. Said no one ever. So
Exactly. You're talking to someone who's never even smoked marijuana. I don't even drink alcohol. So like, because I want to perform at the highest levels, I can't. I don't even drink coffee. But I also want to tell you there are several things that Democratic donors refuse to say because for them it's a financial investment. You have to bear that in mind. Not only was it a political stance, they also wanted to safeguard their money. These were people who poured millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars into the candidate, and they expected an ROI. So part of guarding that investment was by keeping things under wraps. For instance, we all knew that Hunter had sex with his dead brother's wife, and we were all horrified by that. Horrified. We would talk about it amongst ourselves, but no one said a thing. Another thing we were horrified about was the fact that Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's wife, allegedly hit his girlfriend so hard she spun around and then paid the nanny around $80,000 to not say that he impregnated her. These are two separate instances.
Wait. So Doug Imhoff had hit his girlfriend while married.
Allegedly, let's not get sued today, but
Okay,
there's
but allegedly Doug Imhoff hit his girlfriend that he had while being married to
no,
Kamala.
this is after he cheated on his wife with the nanny. These are two different women.
Yes, he
It
did.
gets
He
worse.
cheated on
Yeah,
his wife
exactly.
with the nanny.
Yes, and that's true. Like that's true. Like it's validated, it's out there. She signed an NDA and he made a payment in return.
Got it.
And these are all things that we were horrified by. But the calculus is orange man bad, so it's better to keep your mouth shut.
That was the biggest thing, right? Compromising everybody's principles just to keep the orange man.
Yeah, and I have to be frank with you. I stayed in the Democratic Party not because of orange man bad. Like that actually wasn't my concern. My concern is environmental. Actually, I care deeply about clean air and clean water. I actually think the Democratic Party is not the best on this issue because AOC hijacked it with their Green New Deal, which is a socialist experiment. But for me, clean air and clean water are the bedrocks of a good life. Because what's the point of having health if you can't even have air? And I've spent my entire life since I was a kid working on environmental issues, advocating for example, the EPA is a Republican invention. Nixon started it.
That's right.
He was the one who gave us the Clean Air Act. And so I saw what was happening on the Republican side with Koch Industries and ExxonMobil and Chevron, and it broke my heart. I was born in a regime, the air was so bad that the stuff coming out of your nose is black, like your mucus is black. That's how heavy the pollution is in some parts of China. And I didn't want that to happen here as well. So from an early age, I saw just the ugliness of excessive pollution, and it infected every aspect of your life. For me, it's existential. And looking at the two parties, the Democratic Party was my best bet. And that's why I stayed. I stayed for that. And even to this day, I have to say it, criticizing Trump right now is a brave thing to do. And I'm just saying, I'm not thrilled by what's going on on the environment. I'm not. But I'd rather have him than Kamala.
But let's talk about the seismic changes. I want to know. I want you to give me an idea, if you had to guess, what happens to Israel's standing within the United States over the next, as essentially Gaza begins to look more and more like the surface of the moon. What happens to Israel? How difficult is for Israel to maintain their influence? And the second thing I want you to touch on is what happens. What is this? Is there a sea change now that Charlie Kirk has been assassinated? Is there a movement? Tell me what you think. What are we to expect from these two? It's interesting because there's something about the Charlie Kirk assassination that feels
different.
Yes, huge. Just very, very, very emotionally charged, but even more than that. Something about a guy who took all his ideas and all he did was talk. And the other side seems to, at least if you look at social media, which they're very good at kind of like highlighting the worst examples, seems though to approve in some ways. Even on mainstream media, there seems to be like, well, he was talking a certain way. Hate speech, blah, blah, blah. And I find that outrageous.
Bryan, you're absolutely spot on that this has been a watershed moment. I almost think it's like 1848 in Europe, and I think we are actually suffering through mass PTSD because we all saw the video several times in some cases. It's just so universally shocking. And I want to say that you say that it's the worst cases that we've seen the excesses and the ugly, the worst, the most ugliest instances on the left of people celebrating. But let me tell you, I would say the vast majority hold and harbor those views to some degree. They may not celebrate his death per se, but they're like, it is a net positive in their mind. They actually think that.
They're wrong.
They're wrong. They're deeply wrong, but I'm saying it's not, some
I just mean they're wrong in terms of if they think this was a win for their side, I think they're going to be Very
It's
surprised at what it's galvanized and what kind of
exactly, they
momentum.
don't know that about the dragon that they just awoke.
That's it.
They absolutely do not. It's gonna be they've created, like, I wouldn't say with million Charlie Kirks because it's so hard to replicate him, but they have compounded the movement so many times. But
Yep.
I do wanna say it's just a very they believe this. They think that Charlie Kirk was a scourge on society, which is a heartbreaking assessment. I actually he was nothing but nice. He was just so nice. He was one of the first people to welcome me on the right. He didn't have to. It
Mm,
was a very tentative time for me. He took a chance on me. He didn't have to.
mm.
Because people on the right on that at that time when they didn't know me very well, they were criticizing me. I don't want to name specific people, but there was one person. And Brian, I feel like it's like that Wuthering Heights quote. I am Heathcliff. He's more myself than I am. Whatever
Yeah.
souls are made of his and mine, they're same. Um, I feel that way with you. And so I feel like you and I have a deep sense of mission in our lives. But there was somebody on the right who made such scurrilous accusations against me. I started to wonder, what is it all for? And I remember sitting on my bedroom floor and being like, it would be great not to be alive right now. Like, it would be a great
Yeah.
not to feel right
Yeah.
now.
I know. I've dealt with that for the past 5 years. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, sure. Everybody, well, people say things about you, and you deal
It's
with it,
so bad.
and it sucks. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
bad. And there's no recourse. You
No.
just got to write it out.
No.
And thankfully, none of it stuck because it wasn't true. But what I'm saying is, Charlie came out for me at a time when it was risky because they didn't know me. And for them, for a lot of people, I was just this Democrat. So I appreciated that. He was such a nice guy. So I think you're spot on that this will come back. I mean, this has already come back and bit them in the ass so hard because they unleashed such an incredible force. And I also want to go back to your first question about Israel. They're screwed. I don't think they understand how bad their reputation is amongst my generation and Gen Zers. Like my brother is 25 years old, and the way that the things that I hear from him, Israel is screwed. I don't think they have any support other than people who are personally invested in the situation. But it's just the way that they've conducted themselves. And thank you for nodding along. I don't know if our views are aligned on this, but I'm just so deeply disappointed.
It's a proportionality thing, isn't it? Regardless.
Proportionality is no
Yeah.
longer even it's nowhere even close. It's not in the same universe.
Right.
They've passed proportionality about 2 years ago.
Right. That's right. Yeah, and I think when Netanyahu made that deal with these hardline blocks to stay in power, and they are messianic, and many of them are messianic. Many of them are essentially they are religious fundamentalists. And so there are a lot of people on the left in Israel that are, or just regular Israelis who are like, there are a lot of protests. They're just kind of going, can you not see what this is doing? This is nuts. Yes, we want to get the hostages back. I understand. But Hamas has accomplished their mission to turn the world against Israel. That's what they did. And it's a brutal realization. I have no love for Hamas. And when October 7th happened, I have that thing where I say it's the push stop everything button. You don't get to do that to people. You don't get to kill children in their pajamas and family. I want fucking war. I get as a man wanting to go in and annihilate anybody with a calling card that says Hamas. I understand that. As a man, you do that to my country, and I want fucking that. That. But that's my nature. I want to fight. I want my revenge, right? But cooler heads have to prevail here, and you've got to you might win this battle, but not the war.
Absolutely. And I want to tell you something that I haven't said before. It's that when they used to invite us to the White House for influencer gatherings, like people with large followings, they told us to stay away from Gaza because the topic was so heated, it's better not to address it at all. And because, and it's very interesting that Biden was harassed and stalked by protesters everywhere he went, but they didn't bother to do that with Trump because for them, they had no hope of ever changing Trump's mind. But they saw Biden's betrayal as even more insidious because he was on their side. Do you
Mm,
understand?
yeah. Yeah.
So their sense of betrayal was even deeper, and more acute because they did think that they could change his mind. And I don't know if you remember when Kamala first ascended to the top of the ticket, there was a period when she could do no wrong. It was Brat Girl Summer. It was Kamala is Brat, and they loved her and they worshipped her. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, it was gone. And a
Yeah.
lot of that was because they realized that there was no daylight between Kamala and Biden and that she was going to do the exact
Yeah,
same
I heard
thing.
somebody describe it as a sugar high. The sugar high of Kamala is going to wear off right quick, you know?
Exactly. They
Yeah.
realized there was not much behind it.
Yeah.
It's so ironic to me. I know all of these people. Like I knew the people at CNN and MSNBC who used to shit on her. And then overnight they engineered her into the second
Of
coming of
course.
Christ.
Yeah. And
These
so
are the
now you're
same
lying.
people. I heard you trashing her last week. I heard you say that. And
Yeah.
suddenly she was the Messiah.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
at the time I didn't call them out, but I was just shaking my head. It was
You
just
know
like
who
such a
weathered that really
drastic.
well? You know who weathered that really well? Tucker Carlson. Because if you look at the text he was talking about, he was calling Trump demonic. He despises him, and he just, but everybody kind of conveniently forgot about that, and now he's got this huge podcast. That was an interesting head fake. That was, he's
How do you feel about him?
I think that I like so I think Tucker is, to be completely honest, I think Tucker has a real flair for the dramatic. Tucker loves to pit things. He likes to create a biblical sort of good guys bad guys thing. He'll use words like angelic and demonic. He loves to reduce the any real situation to someone out there who's evil and someone out there who's trying to do good. Um, even if it's Sam Altman, and he'll float the idea that Sam had one of his, say, naysayers or whistleblowers killed. He loves that cloak and dagger stuff. I think he knows better. I think Tucker knows a lot about the world. He was in DC for too long, but he's probably also rather cynical about the world and about people on both sides. And so he's good at playing the game, and he's very
He really
entertaining.
is.
You know,
I want to let you know that he used to be good friends with Hunter Biden. Did you know that?
it's not surprising at all. Tucker he's very talented at creating a very clear narrative that says these people are good and these people are bad. Frankly, these people are evil and demonic and these people are angelic and fighting for the good. We all love that, resonates with our psychic structures. Tucker Carlson is very, very popular because he's very intelligent. And I think there's a lot about him I would probably like very much. There's a lot he says that I actually agree with, his
Yeah.
overall worldview. But he's also really good at telling a story. He's a great storyteller. He understands what people respond to emotionally, and it's part of the Tucker Carlson, entertainer, source of information, but please understand also entertainer. Please understand that he might be playing this game with himself, this tongue-in-cheek game. He's like he likes to lead. He likes to give people rope.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll spin a yarn, and he might believe it or not. But I like that he held Ted Cruz's feet to the fire.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, so Tucker's
absolutely.
not really so afraid of being liked. He'll ask tough questions, and he's got his point of view. So yeah, that's probably
I
more.
do want to give both Charlie and Tucker credit because Charlie platformed Tucker when he said, we got to look into the connections behind Jeffrey Epstein. That was a really brave thing for him to say.
Why do you think there's an obsession with Jeffrey Epstein? Is it because people believe that he was a Mossad affiliate, agent, asset? Do they believe that Israel or someone in the power in the deep state said, "Hey, he was doing our bidding as an Israeli agent. Kill that investigation"? Is that what people are really after here? What's the real conspiracy?
I think that's it also, but I think Israel has lost the plot so badly that people are susceptible and willing to believe anything. I don't know if you saw, but this past weekend, much of X was convinced and still is
That
convinced that
Israel
Israel took
killed.
out Charlie.
Yeah, I
You
know.
saw that?
Of course I did.
And Netanyahu did not help
Candace
the
Owens is
case.
talking about it. People just talking about it openly. Yeah.
Yeah, but Netanyahu also behaved in exactly the way that you would if he actually did. Like, he came out several times to say that Charlie was, our guy, which is not even entirely true because Charlie in recent months had been starting to criticize Israel. Like, it just seems like such a desecration of his memory to say
Yeah.
that this guy who just recently died was our mascot. Um,
Well, please understand that every conspiracy theory, if you keep following it down the rabbit hole, ends with an invisible circle of Jews holding strings. I mean, this is my problem with all the conspiracy theories. If you really press people, and I have, you'll find that at the end of the day, it's the globalists, it's the international bankers, all these code words for Jews with shekels, and it's this stereotype of he's my puppet, and it again,
But
we're back
people
to
have
this.
found synonyms for that now. Now the synonyms, Palantir and BlackRock, they found new words for it.
Exactly. Whereas Larry Fink, BlackRock and Vanguard, these people came up with a way where you didn't have to pay a stockbroker and you could actually just invest in the index funds. Because if you look at the data, you're probably going to make just as much money or more money. You can double your money every 7 to 10 years, and it won't cost you as much money as opposed to having some financial manager who's going to fee you to death, and he'll have a yacht and you'll have nothing. So.
By the way, Brian, you could not be more spot on. And this is something else that they erased from my Wikipedia, but I used to be an investment banker at Morgan
I
Stanley. And
know.
let me tell you, these people are parasites, having been in the industry. You're spot on. The best thing you can do with your money is put it in a low cost
Right.
index fund and just let it ride. Like, don't even bother with it. Just put the money in and ignore
The
it for
truth
10
is
years.
never sexy, and either is making money. People who make really real money, they
It's
do it in a very
boring,
yes, it's boring. Yes. Yes.
It's long and boring.
The
Just put
civil
it
rights
in,
movement,
ignore it.
what gave black people sort of more equality wasn't fiery speeches. It was the people getting into the nitty-gritty of the legislation. It's getting involved in all that unsexy, boring shit that you gotta, do. That's really where it came
Well,
from.
can I also add on that? If you really want to talk about what gave us civil rights, it's because Lyndon B. Johnson realized that helping Black people happened to align with his political interests. Like, honestly, he didn't even like Black people that much, but he realized it was in his self-interest to do something about the Civil Rights Act
Yeah.
and to harness the memory of JFK.
Yeah. I think he needed the South, and there was
He
something.
needed the South, exactly, the realignment. But that he wasn't driven by conviction. He was driven by a thirst for more political hegemony.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right. So, again, there's just I think always the truth is it's very, very possible. First of all, I don't think Israel killed Charlie Kirk. It is very possible this emotionally disturbed creep, this shitty little guy who was looking to be significant, as a lot of young men who are lost do, decided I'm going to make the world a better place and I'm going to kill. I'm going to kill.
Yes, one thing I will add though, and I'm not a tinfoil conspiracist. I'm just not. I'm very cerebral, and that's just not who I am. I do want to say that we have to be wary of foreign actors on social media
Yes.
platforms who incite and goad people on.
Yes.
We don't know who's behind we don't know who's behind the furries. Who the people that he was interacting with. We don't know if they were foreign actors, and it's not.
That's a good point. I'm glad you reminded me of that. I always forget that, but that's exactly right. There is
The Russian bot forms are so experienced and so lethal. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're just getting better because of AI. And I think they were inciting a lot of hatred this weekend on X. So I think we just had to be careful about that, and I hope the FBI is looking into it. But they have forfeited so much trust on the Epstein files. I don't think the public is even going to accept their explanation for what happened with Charlie Holcroft because they've just forfeited it. First they said there were files, they were going to release the list, and it turns out that Biden was just full of information that was already released. And so they fumbled the ball. And it was a completely unforced error, too.
Do you know what? It's interesting. Do you know when I'll quiz you and see if you can guess. And it's whether it's true or not. A lot of scholars have said this. Do you know when the distrust in American institutions really took root? Yes, Vietnam. It's not Vietnam, but there was something else that happened where our institutions came under scrutiny in a way for the average American, at least. Do you know when that was? It's an interesting theory.
There was this term that I forgot. There's like a gap of credibility. I didn't. Well, Nixon for sure worsened it.
Yes, that was always something that we kind of expected. Politicians have always been somewhat corrupt, but it was really the Catholic Church and the way they handled
Oh my
the.
God, that's such a clever answer. I was going to take you on another field trip.
Oh, you
But
were. Oh, good.
so this book, I highly recommend it. Legacy of Ashes, award-winning book.
I have
Basically,
that.
the CIA has fucked up every operation it's ever done, like every
Yes, I
single
have
one.
that. I have that. I have
Have
family
you
members.
read it? It's just like it's another. It goes to your point though. I bring it up because I'll figure this out later. My books are the same height, so it takes me a
Well,
long
I
time.
have a lot of friends. I love that. Look at that. I have a lot of friends that, I've got friends that were really, really, really in the CIA. Like did a lot of just they were the guys who were actually
Like Tucker's
in the.
dad.
No, but these were guys who really ran like the stuff that the when you're friends with certain people, like some of these guys really were up close. They did a lot of the stuff that planned the sort of like dangerous missions and were on those dangerous missions. And when you talk to them, or guys who ran those missions, when you really actually talk to them, when you over a beer, it's amazing. They're always like, dude, we didn't know that much. Like if you hear the inner workings of how disorganized and how little power in many cases they did have, or how much guesswork was involved, or how little, it's never as sexy as it seems. It's always kind of a controlled fall. It's a clusterfuck a lot of the time.
Oh, absolutely. I think they actually did more damage to our international standing than
Maybe,
otherwise.
yeah, maybe.
But yeah, so that's very interesting. I've been very disenchanted by the Catholic Church, in with all due respect. I'm gonna get in so much trouble. But I just again talk about forfeiting trust.
Yeah,
That's actually one of the huge reasons why I no longer attend church, because I'm just not going to be a part of that.
yeah,
They've desecrated everything. And I'm from Pennsylvania, where a lot of the scandals erupted.
yep, yep. It was really the church's protection and cover up,
Of
and the
Hitler?
amount of money they spent on defending these people. That's what's unforgivable.
Also, their
And
collusion with Hitler.
yeah, that they weathered to a large extent. you know, that they kind of weathered. Yeah.
I'm
But
sorry,
nobody's
I did not realize today was going to be a Barnes and Noble tour.
I love it. But people aren't going to read that book. That's not as that's sort of like, sort of in the zeitgeist as how they handled the sexual predators, all the pedophiles. And there was a French journalist who lived in the Vatican for a year, and he's gay, and he just said half of them are gay and half of them are pedophiles, and that's what he said. And he's a French journalist. He said he wrote this book, and he said they're both covering for each other because nobody wants anybody to know. It's a rather conservative society, so it's kind of a boys' club in the Vatican.
That's amazing. Speaking of boys' club, this is somewhat unrelated, but the people running, in addition to the three people I mentioned in the who were running the Biden White House, there was just a group of like, oh my gosh, there was just like a group of gays running the White House. And because, I think they were ostracized during their high school years, they were
Yeah,
reliving their youth.
clicky, and mean
Clicky,
girls.
so mean, so exclusive. It actually got to be such a problem that we complained. Like, this
Wow,
is not just like me making a wry or casual observation. It got to be such a problem because they were hijacking the invite lists and
wow.
excluding all the fundraisers, the people who've been with Biden for a long time. And then we had to step in and be like, what is going on here? Like, why are there in their high school or college friends? Like, we see them in every photo.
That's
Why are they
amazing.
taking over the East Room of the White House? So this is something that we had to raise concerns about.
That's incredible.
But it also just speaks to the fact that Biden did not have control over the situation. He was just delegating everything.
Who was running things?
The three people I mentioned, for sure. Jill was running the place, and she had a lapdog named Anthony Bernal, who was actually accused of sexual harassment. But actually, the person at the top of the hour would, I told you something private at the top of the hour, but the person that in that story, the other side of it, I took him with me to the Oval Office on February 24th, 2024. And we went through the cocaine room, the cubby where the cocaine was found.
Yeah.
And I was astounded, by the way. The person who was shepherding us around was the guy who was running Kamala's budget. I was astounded with that. When we walked in the cocaine room, the cubbies were to your left. The door was, straight on. There was no security. There were no cameras. And I was thinking to myself, did they learn nothing?
Wow. No
Like there was
cameras, no security. Wow.
nothing. It was just the three of us. And by the way, the public didn't know this, but they conducted zero investigations.
I figured, it's like, I guess the most secure building on the planet, and you guys don't know whose cocaine that is?
Because they
Really?
said their excuse was interviewing people would have been a violation of people's privacy. It's the White House. Violate their privacy, please.
Got an 8 ball in the White House, guys. Come on.
Exactly. But I'm just saying, when we walked into the room, there were no changes made. It was the exact same. Like they didn't even care.
So bring me back to Charlie Kirk and what you think happens. What does this do to elections? What does this do? Will the country swing more conservative? Are the lines even deeper now? What is your instinct?
Well, I'm people eat food. I eat data, just because I love it. I want to understand politics. And one of the most conservative demographics in this country, believe it or not, are young men. And there's a huge dichotomy between young men and young women. Women are heading in the other direction. I think primarily because of reproductive rights. And men are just like veering. Ow! Just knocked in. Veering are just men are just veering in the opposite direction. And I think a large part of it is Charlie. He made it okay. He made it like almost cool to be a conservative dad, to be a young dad with beautiful kids.
Yeah.
And to not have to party every night and to just go home and be with your wife and hang out. I think there's
responsibility. He was tough. When you see a man taking on all comers with his ideas and he's that effective, as men, we go, dude, that dude, like, so we want information because it's ammunition. We want it. When you watch him crushing people in debate, there's something very masculine about that. There's something very reassuring about that. My 14-year-old son, when he was 12 years old, he was talking about Charlie Kirk. And then when he was 13, and I'm telling you, I never spoke to him about anything. I don't go to church or anything. And he goes, I'm a Christian. And I went, what? So he's now like identified with Charlie Kirk. And when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and some of the kids in his Santa Monica school were, kind of cheering or whatever, he was like, hey man, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to come to Texas. And I was like, hey, I got a place for you. Come on.
These are high school kids who were cheering.
He's in 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it's their parents. It's how they were raised. It's also California and in Santa Monica.
But this is what I mean. Like, people act as though it's an outlier. This is the general consensus. They are happy.
Yeah. Well, the pushback is pretty strong, though, to that, right? And so
I think you're pushing underground, but the sentiment still exists, And so just.
Yes. Well, I think, though, let me say this. I think if let's just say for us on the side that believes that Charlie Kirk was a really a good or even a great man and a force for good, who believe in free speech and the free flow exchange of ideas, who believe that this country was founded on spirited debate and believe truly in the First Amendment, in things like that. We have to hold ourselves to a very high standard now. So I'm not interested in talking to far leftists anymore. I'm not compromising anymore. I don't like them, and I don't want to compromise. I want to crush them. That's what I want to do. I'm not saying that violently, but I want to crush them. And by the way, I hope anybody who's that left, please understand, guys, you don't know how to fight. Please don't wake up conservatives. please don't. My friends shoot straight. My friends will like, you don't have a shot. If you really want to take this into the physical realm, it'll be so bad for them. These are people who've never done a contact sport, never mind fucking, talking about revolution. Shut the fuck up. You don't know anything. Please, please don't do
Can
that.
I just say, you talk about masculinity, what you just exuded masculinity for me. Like, you were Charlie Kirk right now. You embodied him right now.
I'm just,
And that is the highest of compliments I can possibly give to you.
I
And you
appreciate
are spot on about the quality of men in the Democratic Party too. They have noodle arms, just
dude,
like me.
dude.
And some of them look even more anorexic than I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Like David Hogg. Have you seen David Hogg?
Yes, yes, yes. David doesn't want, he doesn't want, and we wouldn't even, it's like, don't start
Wait,
playing that game.
Bryan, you're gonna love this. I got to tell you one quick thing about David Hogg. I used to be stuck on calls with him, and we did a call with Kamala Harris. It was just like a day after she became the nominee, and it was supposed to be about her, obviously, like she was the presidential candidate. David Hogg made it all about himself. It was a 30-minute call.
Of
He
course.
talked about himself for 20 minutes,
Yeah.
just about how he's amazing and how he was raising money. And all of us were just mortified and like texting each other. Like, this guy wouldn't shut up. I don't know, he's unable to read social cues.
And those kinds of examples don't speak to young men. They just don't speak to what happens hormonally as you start to deal with this aggression and this feeling of competition. You want it all. You want people that can teach you how to navigate the chaos of life and win. That's really important. But here's what I would say. I'm going to protect David Hogg. I want David Hogg to be able to speak his mind. I don't want David Hogg to come to any violence. I want him to speak his mind and rattle off. I find it adorable, fucking adorable and amusing whenever these like super liberal kind of like left wingers with their hair and their septums pierced talking about revolution. You're adorable. You're adorable. I'm just gonna kind of like, okay, you go ahead and do that. Go practice your karate or something. Good luck with that. But more importantly, we have to hold ourselves to a very high standard, a high standard. And what I mean by that is this. Trayvon Martin was killed by this guy, George Zimmerman. And that was a boy. He was 17 years old. And he was killed unjustly. And what happened after that was George Zimmerman, by conservatives, they sold his gun for $250,000. He was invited to gun shows where he was signing autographs. That's gross. That doesn't make, that we lose the moral high ground. Conservatives lose the moral high ground when they do things like that. And if I was black, or if I was on the left, or just, I don't have to be on the left, I can be me. I can find that outrageous, and I can find it very hypocritical. So it's very important to make sure that we're not hypocritical about this. It's very important that we protect Mehdi Hassan. There's a lot about Mehdi Hassan I don't agree with at all, but I really appreciate Mehdi Hassan because Mehdi Hassan has a right to take, he went to Oxford, he's at the Oxford Debating Society, and he takes everybody on. I may not disagree with him, but I respect the dude because even if I disagree and I would love to debate him, he's always out there. He's a firebrand. He's keeping the conversation alive. He's exercising his First Amendment, and I would protect him. And if Mehdi Hassan, God forbid, if anything happened, anybody brought physical harm to Mehdi Hassan, I would be just as outraged as I am, and frankly heartbroken as I am about Charlie Kirk. Because we cannot be cowed into silence, but we cannot lose the fact that this is a land where you are allowed to speak your mind, and may the best idea win. Let's have some idea sex. Maybe somebody get pregnant with a new idea. How about that? Huh?
Bryan, you know who you remind me of?
Who?
And this is, again, the highest of compliments. You remind me of Voltaire, the French philosopher. And let me tell you why.
I love Voltaire.
Because he said, I may not agree with you, but I would fight to the death for your right to say it.
It's so true, man. And I believe that. I believe it. I think part of masculinity and part of learning how to fight, for example, being in a gym and learning how to box, learning how to, how to wrestle, how to do jujitsu, learning how to shoot, all that stuff. You're not doing it to dominate. You're doing it to protect people. There are two types of power in the world. One is the kind of power that Kim Jong-un exerts on people, which causes you to bow your head in fear. And there's another kind of power that somebody like Michael Jordan has. And that is the kind of power that causes you to lift your head and want to be like that person. You want to emulate that person. That's the difference between authority. Good authority is competent. Good authority is where they teach you how to navigate this thing, this impossible thing called life, with grace and effectiveness and even beauty. You see somebody who's really good at something, who knows how to write a story really well. Well, they were tutored properly. When they write a movie that makes you laugh and cry, that's a very difficult thing to do, but somebody was behind that person. And conversely, we have people who are poisoning the minds of young people, poisoning the minds of this kid, like this kid who just killed Charlie Kirk. Who were his teachers? What were they teaching him? I want to know that too. So we have to be the kind of people that exert our power and our masculinity, for lack of a better word, in a responsible way. Something that inspires people, that raises their head. I want to be like that guy. I don't want to make anybody afraid. I want you to want to be like me. I want to be helpful. And if you're lost and you're a little creep that's thinking about picking up a gun and shooting somebody you don't agree with, man, I'd love to. I want to figure out a way to change your heart and your mind. I want to persuade you over here and save your life before it's too late. So,
Bryan, I love you, Bryan. I am rarely inspired anymore. I'm just so jaded. I've been through a lot. I've been around the block like, a million times. But
too.
You're so inspiring. You're so talented.
I'm nothing, but I want you to come to a show. You got to come see one of my shows.
I would love to.
Let's well that was Lindy Li. Thank you so much for joining us. You're awesome.
Are we allowed to curse on here?
Yes.
You're the motherfucking best. I've never said that to anybody. You are so talented. You are so real and gritty. I don't even want you to run for office because I feel like that would sully you. You're such a light.
Well, I do my best. I'm just trying to be funny and
your kids are so lucky to have you. Like, I kind of want to take you home and put you in my pocket, and you're just great.
I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here. You can take me home, put me in your pocket. I'll do that. Well, thanks, man.
Thank you so much.